Yeah,
Hello, everyone. So, do we say good evening or do we say good night?
we start with good evening and we end with a good night.
Okay. So, I just wanted to share two things. This reminds me of school days. Okay. We had one book, a non-detailed book, I think in grade 7 and grade 6, different non-detailed books we had. One was Charles Dickens, Tale of Two Cities in sixth grade, and in seventh grade, Oliver Twist. Okay. And every Saturday, the teacher would read one chapter, and I would just eagerly wait for the next Saturday. And I had the book with me. I could have read it on my own. I don't know what stopped me from reading it on my own. But the way she would narrate and explain, transport us into that world, it was beautiful, amazing. And both those novels are gripping. It's beautiful. So I used to look forward to that. So I think I'm just getting those memories back. So today's session is all about reading for you. We're just going to read from this book, which is a very popular book. And
Okay,
yeah,
you
Kanti
want
has a hard copy, and I'm going to read it on my iPad.
one
It's a very
second.
popular book and very useful book, and especially for students who want to work on their habits. And it doesn't have to be just about language learning or communication skill. Habit formation for to improve your life, to better your life, and to achieve whatever goals you have. So it's going to help you in all ways. That is more about the knowledge that you're going to gain from the book. But on the other hand, another thing that we are looking at is habit formation of reading. Okay. So I don't have to tell you, I've already posted so many videos talking to you about how useful reading is, how it's going to help your communication, it's going to help your English, it's going to help you to improve your imagination, creativity. It's endless. I don't have to tell you. Okay. So we want all of you to become readers, enjoy reading. We want you to enjoy reading. And this is one small attempt from our side. Okay, we are going to be here consistently. If not, Kanti will be there. Both of us will be there sometimes, and we'll be there for one full hour, and we will read it out to you. So if you want to switch on your camera, you can. Otherwise, this is a pajama party. I am in my night dress. Okay, you can also be in your night clothes and just aram se just listen to us what we are saying. If you want some text comments that you want to put in between, you can. By the end of, say, around 45 minutes or maybe 40 minutes, we'll start opening it up for questions. And if you are still awake and listening and you haven't fallen asleep, then we can have an interesting conversation, maybe. Okay. I want my water already.
So, where we want you to look at is see, I'm going to be reading, and so is Meera. So, we're going to take turns. And I only hope we're not going to put you to sleep. It is your sleep time. Yeah. And it is a very interesting book. I have read it, and so has Meera. And I can tell you, by the way, my name is Kanti, and I'm a director in Asha Infinite Foundation. So, been there since the beginning of Asha, and love working here, and love the fact how much I can see the changes in each of you. And your stories are what give us the impetus, give us the inspiration to go forth, to do more and more and more. Yeah. So, Meera, you'll start, or shall I?
I'll start so that I can take a break when I'm tired and you will take over.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be tiring. Let's see. On the final day of my sophomore year of high school, I was hit in the face with a baseball bat. As my classmate took a full swing, the bat slipped out of his hands and came flying toward me before striking me directly between the eyes. I have no memory of the moment of impact. The bat smashed into my face with such force and it crushed my nose into a distorted U shape. The collision sent the soft tissue of my brain slamming into the side of my skull. Immediately, a wave of swelling surged throughout my head. In a fraction of a second, I had a broken nose, multiple skull fractures, and two shattered eye sockets. When I opened my eyes, I saw people staring at me and running over to help. I looked down and noticed spots of red on my clothes. One of my classmates took the shirt off his back and handed it to me. I used it to plug the stream of blood rushing from my broken nose. Shocked and confused, I was unaware of how seriously I had been injured. My teacher looped his arm around my shoulder and we began the long walk to the nurse's office, across the field, down the hill, and back into school. Random hands touched my sides, holding me upright. We took our time and walked slowly. Nobody realized that every minute mattered. When we arrived at the nurse's office, she asked me a series of questions. What year is it? 1998, I answered. It was actually 2002. Who is the President of the United States? Bill Clinton, I said. The correct answer was George W. Bush. What is your mom's name? I stalled. 10 seconds passed. Patty, I said casually, ignoring the fact that it had taken me 10 seconds to remember my own mother's name. That is the last question I remember. My body was unable to handle the rapid swelling in my brain, and I lost consciousness before the ambulance arrived. Minutes later, I was carried out of school and taken to the local hospital. Shortly after arriving, my body began shutting down. I struggled with basic functions like swallowing and breathing. I had my first seizure of the day. Then I stopped breathing entirely. As the doctors hurried to supply me with oxygen, they also decided the local hospital was unequipped to handle the situation and ordered a helicopter to fly me to a larger hospital in Cincinnati. I was rolled out of the emergency room doors and toward the helipad across the street. The stretcher rattled on a bumpy sidewalk as one nurse pushed me along while another pumped each breath into me by hand. My mother, who had arrived at the hospital a few moments before, climbed into the helicopter beside me. I remained unconscious and unable to breathe on my own as she held my hand during the flight. When my mother rode with me in the helicopter, my father went home to check on my brother and sister and break the news to them. He choked back tears as he explained to my sister that he would miss her 8th grade graduation ceremony that night. After passing my siblings off to family and friends, he drove to Cincinnati to meet my mother. When my mother and I landed on the roof of the hospital, a team of nearly 20 doctors and nurses sprinted onto the helipad and wheeled me into the trauma unit. By this time, the swelling in my brain had become so severe that I was having repeated post-traumatic seizures. My broken bones needed to be fixed, but I was in no condition to undergo surgery. After yet another seizure, my third of the day, I was put into a medically induced coma and placed on a ventilator. My parents were no strangers to this hospital. 10 years earlier, they had entered the same building on the ground floor after my sister was diagnosed with leukemia at age 3. I was 5 at the time. My brother was just 6 months old. After 2.5 years of chemotherapy treatments, spinal taps, and bone marrow biopsies, my little sister finally walked out of the hospital happy, healthy, and cancer free. And now, after 10 years of normal life, my parents found themselves back in the same place with a different child. While I slipped into a coma, the hospital sent a priest and a social worker to comfort my parents. It was the same priest who had met with them a decade earlier on the evening they found out my sister had cancer. Kanti, in our Indian setup, I think we would have had some grannies, uncles, aunties coming and helping. In
Yes,
USA, they do.
they have their pastors, they have their Christian missionaries coming to
Other
help
than
with.
that, I mean, they don't have any other social setup like ours.
Array, we are a family-driven society.
That's what occurred to me as soon as I read that. There was nobody to take care of the children. A day faded into night. A series of machines kept me alive. My parents slept restlessly on a hospital mattress. One moment they would collapse from fatigue, the next they would be wide awake with worry. My mother would tell me later it was one of the worst nights I've ever had. My recovery. Mercifully, by the next morning, my breathing had rebounded to the point where the doctors felt comfortable releasing me from the coma. When I finally regained consciousness, I discovered that I had lost my ability to smell. As a test, a nurse asked me to blow my nose and sniff an apple juice box. My sense of smell returned, but to everyone's surprise, the act of blowing my nose forced air through the fractures in my eye socket and pushed my left eye outward. My eyeball bulged out of the socket, held precariously in place by my eyelid, and the optic nerve attached to my eye, attaching my eye to my brain. The ophthalmologist said my eye would gradually slide back into place as the air seeped out, but it was hard to tell how long this would take. I was scheduled for surgery 1 week later, which would allow me some additional time to heal. I looked like I had been on the wrong end of a boxing match, but I was cleared to leave the hospital. I returned home with a broken nose, half a dozen facial fractures, and a bulging left eye. The following months were hard. It felt like everything in my life was on pause. I had double vision for weeks. I literally couldn't see straight. It took more than a month, but my eyeball did eventually return to its normal location. Between the seizures and my vision problems, it was 8 months before I could drive a car again. At physical therapy, I practiced basic motor patterns like walking in a straight line. I was determined not to let my injury get me down. But there were more than a few moments when I felt depressed and overwhelmed. So I just can't stop myself. One more thing I wanted to add here was just see how he started the story, the novel, the book, okay, with a
But
gripping story which catches the attention of the audience, which is what we should include in all our presentations or our TED Talks or wherever you're going to talk. Start with a story that grips people and you want to know what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. And it's not boring for anybody who's reading. I hope so, at least for all of you. An occasional text now and then will show that you're not asleep and you people are listening to us.
please say, please message awake or even A to say that you're all awake.
Yes, ma'am, listening. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we are awake.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, only text. Okay. I became painfully aware of how far I had to go when I returned to the baseball field 1 year later. Oh my God, 1 year. Baseball had always been a major part of my life. My dad had played minor league baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals, and I had a dream of playing professionally too. After months of rehabilitation, what I wanted more than anything was to get back on the field. But my return to baseball was not smooth. When the season rolled around, I was the only junior to be cut from the varsity baseball team. I was sent down to play with the sophomores on junior varsity. I had been playing since age 4, and for someone who had spent so much time and effort on the sport, getting cut was humiliating. I vividly remember the day it happened. I sat in my car and cried as I flipped through the radio, desperately searching for a song that would make me feel better. After a year of self doubt, I managed to make the varsity team as a senior, but I rarely made it on the field. In total, I played 11 innings of high school varsity baseball, barely more than a single game. Despite my lackluster high school career, I still believed I could become a great player. And I knew that if things were going to improve, I was the one responsible for making it happen. The turning point came 2 years after my injury when I began college at Denison University. It was a new beginning, and it was the place where I would discover the surprising power of small habits for the first time. Kanti, you want to take this?
I'll do that. Okay. How I learned about habits. Attending Denison was one of the best decisions of my life. I earned a spot on the baseball team, and although I was at the bottom of the roster as a freshman, I was thrilled. Despite the chaos of my high school years, I had managed to become a college athlete. I wasn't going to be starting at the baseball team anytime soon, so I focused on getting my life in order. While my peers stayed up late and played video games, I built good sleep habits and went to bed early each night. In the messy world of a college dorm, I made a point to keep my room neat and tidy. These improvements were minor, but they gave me a sense of control over my life. I started to feel confident again, and this growing belief in myself rippled into the classroom as I improved my study habits and managed to earn straight A's during my first year. A habit is a routine or behavior that is performed regularly and, in many cases, automatically. As each semester passed, I accumulated small but consistent habits that ultimately led to the results that were unimaginable to me when I started. For example, for the first time in my life, I made it a habit to lift weights multiple times per week. And in the years that followed, my 6 foot 4 inch frame bulked up from a featherweight 170 to a lean 200 pounds. When my sophomore season arrived, I earned a starting role on the pitching staff. By my junior year, I was voted team captain, and at the end of the season, I was selected for the all conference team. But it was not until my senior season that my sleep habits, study habits, and strength training habits really began to pay off. By the way, we are all a little unaware of how important uh, baseball it is, a sport is to this man. And what he said, being all conference team is like, to be picked up from the best players from all the colleges from in the US and put into a team. It could be area wise or whatever. Okay.
No,
Six.
what I picked up from here was he spoke about how he used to sleep early, which all of us need to do. And
Yes.
another thing is that he says he cleaned his room, which actually helped him to become confident. My God, just imagine a small act which can help you to improve your confidence.
Yeah. Yes. 6 years after I had been hit in the face with a baseball bat, flown to the hospital, and placed into a coma, I was selected as the top male athlete at Denison University and named to the ESPN Academic All America team, an honor given to just 33 players across the country. By the time I graduated, I was listed in the school record books in 8 different categories. The same year, I was awarded the university's highest academic honor, the President's Medal. I hope you'll forgive me if this sounds boastful. To be honest, there was nothing legendary or historic about my athletic career. I never ended up playing professionally. However, looking back on those years, I believe I accomplished something just as rare. I fulfilled my potential. And I believe the concepts of this book can help you fulfill your potential as well. We all face challenges in life. This injury was one of mine. And the experience taught me a critical lesson. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. We all deal with setbacks, but in the long run, the quality of our lives depend often depends on the quality of our habits. With the same habits, you'll end up with the same results. But with better habits, anything is possible. Maybe there are people who can achieve incredible success overnight. I don't know any of them. And I'm certainly not one of them. There wasn't one defining moment on my journey from medically induced coma to academic owl American. There were many. It was a gradual evolution, a long series of small wins and tiny breakthroughs. The only way I made progress, the only choice I had was to start small. And I employed the same strategy a few years later when I started my own business and began working on this book. Isn't it inspiring? If yes, please say yes in the chat box. Okay, how and why I wrote this book. In November 2012, I began publishing articles at jamesclear.com. For years, I had been keeping notes about my personal experiments with habits, and I was finally ready to share some of them publicly. I began by publishing a new article every Monday and Thursday. Within a few months, this simple writing habit led to my first 1,000 email subscribers. And by the end of 2013, that number had grown to more than 30,000 people. In 2014, my email list expanded to over 100,000 subscribers, which made it one of the fastest growing newsletters on the internet. I had felt like an imposter when I began writing 2 years earlier, but now I was becoming known as an expert on habits, a new label that excited me but also felt uncomfortable. I had never considered myself a master of the topic, but rather someone who was experimenting alongside my readers. In 2015, I reached 200,000 email subscribers and signed a book deal with Penguin Random House to begin writing the book you're reading now. As my audience grew, so did my business opportunities. I was increasingly asked to speak at top companies about the science of habit formation, behavior change, and continuous improvement. I found myself delivering keynote speeches at conferences in the United States and Europe. In 2016, my articles began to appear regularly in major publications like Time, Entrepreneur, and Forbes. Incredibly, my writing was read by over 8 million people that year. Coaches in the NFL, NBA, and MLB began reading my work and sharing it with their teams. At the start of 2017, I launched the Habits Academy, which became the premier training platform for organizations and individuals interested in building better habits in life and work. Fortune 500 companies and growing startups began to enroll their leaders and train their staff. In total, over 10,000 leaders, managers, coaches, and teachers have graduated from the Habits Academy, and my work with them has taught me an incredible amount of what it takes to make habits work in the real world. As I put finishing touches on this book in 2018, jamesclear.com is receiving millions of visitors per month, and nearly 500,000 people subscribe to my weekly email newsletter. A number that is so far beyond my expectation when I began that I'm not even sure what to think of it. How this book will benefit you. The
You,
on huh?
give us it.
No, I'll just finish this and you can take the first chapter. Yeah. How this book will benefit you. The entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant has said, to write a great book, you must first become the book. I originally learned about the ideas mentioned here because I had to live them. I had to rely on small habits to rebound from my injury, to get stronger in the gym, to perform at high level on the field, to become a writer, to build a successful businessman, and simply to develop into a responsible adult. Small habits help me fulfill my potential. And since you picked up this book, I'm guessing you'd like to fulfill yours as well. In the pages that follow, I will share a step by step plan for building better habits, not for days or weeks, but for a lifetime. While science supports everything I've written, this book is not an academic research paper. It's an operating manual. You'll find wisdom and practical advice front and center as I explain the science of how to create and change your habits in a way that is easy to understand and apply. The fields I draw on, biology, neuroscience, philosophy, psychology, and more, have been around for many years. What I offer you is a synthesis of the best ideas smart people figured out a long time ago, as well as the most compelling discoveries scientists have made recently. My contribution, I hope, is to find the ideas that matter most and connect them in a way that is highly actionable. Anything wise in these pages you should credit to the many experts who preceded me. Anything foolish, assume it is my error. The backbone of this book is my 4-step model of habits: cue, craving, response, and reward. And the 4 laws of behavior change that evolve out of these steps. Readers with psychology background may recognize some of these terms from operant conditioning, which was first proposed as stimulus response reward by B.F. Skinner in the 1930s and has been popularized more recently as cue routine reward in The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Behavioral scientists like Skinner realized that if you offered the right reward or punishment, you could get people to act in a certain way. But while Skinner's model did an excellent job of explaining how external stimuli influenced our habits, it lacked a good explanation of how our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs impact our behavior. Internal, internal states, our moods, and emotions matter too. In recent decades, scientists have begun to determine the connection between our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. This research will also be covered in these pages. In total, the framework I offer is an integrated model of the cognitive and behavioral sciences. I believe it is one of the first models of human behavior to accurately account for both the influence of external stimuli and internal emotions on our habits. While some of the language may be familiar, I am confident that the details and the applications of the 4 laws of behavioral change will offer a new way to think about your habits. Human behavior is always changing, situation to situation, moment to moment, second to second. But this book is all about what doesn't change. It's about the fundamentals of human behavior, the lasting principles you can rely on year after year, the ideas you can build a business around, build a family around, build a life around. There is no right way to create better habits, but this book describes the best way I know, an approach that will be effective regardless of where you start or what you're trying to change. The strategies I cover will be relevant to anyone looking for a step-by-step system for improvement, whether your goals center on health, money, productivity, relationships, or all of the above. As long as human behavior is involved, this book will be your guide. Meera.
The fundamentals. Why tiny changes make a big difference. The surprising power of atomic habits. The fate of British cycling changed one day in 2003. The organization, which was the governing body for professional cycling in Great Britain, had recently hired Dave Brailsford as its new performance director. At the time, professional cyclists in Great Britain had endured nearly 100 years of mediocrity. Since 1908, British riders had won just a single gold medal at the Olympic Games, and they had fared even worse in cycling's biggest race, the Tour de France. In 110 years, no British cyclist had ever won the event. In fact, the performance of British riders had been so underwhelming that one of the top bike manufacturers in Europe refused to sell bikes to the team because they were afraid that it would hurt sales if other professionals saw the Brits using their gear. Brailsford had been hired to put British cycling on a new trajectory. What made him different from previous coaches was his relentless commitment to a strategy that he referred to as the aggregation of marginal gains, which was the philosophy of searching for a tiny margin of improvement in everything you do. Brailsford said the whole principle came from the idea that you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike and then improve it by 1%. You will get a significant increase when you put them all together. That's exactly what we are doing, Kanti, isn't it, for language learning now?
Exactly. It's nice
Brailsford and
on paper. It's nice to see it on paper.
yes. Brailsford and his coaches began by making small adjustments you might expect from a professional cycling team. They redesigned the bike seats to make them more comfortable and rubbed alcohol on the tires for a better grip. They asked riders to wear electrically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature while riding and used biofeedback sensors to monitor how each athlete responded to a particular workout. The team tested various fabrics in a wind tunnel and had their outdoor riders switch to indoor racing suits, which proved to be lighter and more aerodynamic. But they didn't stop there. Brailsford and his team continued to find the 1% improvements in overlooking and improvements in overlooked and unexpected areas. They tested different types of massage gels to see which one led to the fastest muscle recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach each rider the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chances of catching a cold. They determined the type of pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleep for each rider. They even painted the inside of the team truck white, which helped them spot little bits of dust that would normally slip by unnoticed, but could degrade the performance of the finely tuned bikes. As these and hundreds of other small improvements accumulated, the results came faster than anyone could have imagined. So here we have in our team different people trying to do different things. For example, Kratika working on mentoring them, then working on their LinkedIn profiles. You are working on their grammar. So, like each one of us have one role wherein we are looking at all the things that and now we are focusing on their habit formation, reading. There's so many things that we are also doing in the same fashion. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, the British cycling team dominated the road and track cycling events at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing.
where they won an astounding 60% of the gold medals available. 4 years later, when the Olympic Games came to London, the Brits raised the bar as they set 9 Olympic records and even world records. That same year, Bradley Wiggles became the first British cyclist to win the Tour de France. The next year, his teammate Chris Froome won the race, and he would go on to win again in 2015, 2016, and 2017, giving the British team 5 Tour de France victories in 6 years. During the 10-year span from 2007 to 2017, British cyclists won 178 world championships and 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals, and captured 5 Tour de France victories in what is widely regarded as the most successful run in cycling history. How does this happen? How does a team of previously ordinary athletes transform into world champions with tiny changes that, at first glance, would seem to make a modest difference at best? Why do small improvements accumulate into such remarkable results? And how can you replicate this approach in your own life?
Interesting, isn't it? Are you guys awake? Please say yes.
Yeah. Once in a while, one comment from you will really help. There are 2 readers here, so one of us will be observing. Why small habits make a big difference? It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Whether it is losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. Meanwhile, improving by 1% isn't particularly notable. Sometimes it isn't even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. The difference a tiny improvement can make over time is astounding. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you will end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to zero. What starts as a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much more. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous. It is only when looking back 2, 5, or perhaps 10 years later that the value of good habits and the cost of bad ones becomes strikingly apparent. This can be a difficult concept to appreciate in daily life. We often dismiss small changes because they don't seem to matter very much in the moment. If you save a little money now, you're still not a millionaire. If you go to the gym 3 days in a row, you're still out of shape. If you study Mandarin for an hour tonight, you still haven't learned the language. We make a few changes, but the results never seem to come quickly, and so we slide back into our previous routines. So, Kanti, we have been working consistently for the past 10 years to help students slowly and slowly over a period of time. We never gave up. We never gave up on any students, and just see where we have reached now. And we are targeting, teaching, and empowering 1 lakh students now. We have done 10,000, and now we're just jumping and we are aiming high. So this reminds me of all those things.
But by the way, we will have to stop in the next like 5 minutes so that we give them an option to speak about what they've learned, what they like, what they agree.
Is there any right place to stop? Yeah, there is that. What progress is really like? Can I go? We can go till there, or what? Your habits can compound for you. I'll just finish this page.
Yeah.
Where did I stop?
Unfortunately, the slow pace of transformation.
Unfortunately, the slow pace of transformation also makes it easy to let a bad habit slide. If you eat an unhealthy meal today, the scale doesn't move much. If you work late tonight and ignore your family, they will forgive you. If you procrastinate and put your project off until tomorrow, there will usually be time to finish it later. A single decision is easy to dismiss. But when we repeat 1% errors day after day, by replicating poor decisions, duplicating tiny mistakes, and rationalizing little excuses, our small choices compound into toxic results. It's the accumulation of many missteps, a 1% decline here and there, that eventually leads to a problem. The impact created by a change in your habits is similar to the effect of shifting the routine of an airplane by just a few degrees. Imagine you are flying from Los Angeles to New York. If a pilot leaving from Los Angeles adjusts the heading just 3.5 degrees south, you will land in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. Such a small change is barely noticeable at takeoff. The nose of the airplane moves just a few feet, but when magnified across the entire United States, you end up hundreds of miles apart. Similarly, a slight change in your daily habits can guide your life to a very different destination. Making a choice that is 1% better or 1% worse seems insignificant in the moment, but over the span of moments that make up a lifetime, these choices determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. That said, it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether your habits are putting you on the path towards success. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. If you're a millionaire but you spend more than you earn each month, then you're on a bad trajectory. If your spending habits don't change, it's not going to end well. Conversely, if you're broke but you save a little bit every month, then you're on a path toward financial freedom, even if you're moving slower than you'd like. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your clutter is the lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. Even if you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses and see how your daily choices will compound 10 or 20 years down the line. Are you spending less than you earn each month? Are you making it into the gym each week? Are you reading books and learning something new each day? Tiny battles like these are the ones that will define your future self. Time magnifies the margin between success and failure. It will multiply whatever you feed it. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. Habits are a double edged sword. Bad habits can cut you down just as easily as good habits can build you up, which is why understanding the details is crucial. You need to know how habits work and how to design them to your liking so you can avoid the dangerous half of the blade.
Okay. So we stopped right on time at 10:45. And so I want each of you now to turn your mics on, the microphones on, and take turns. And I want each of you to tell what you liked, what you understood, and what you didn't like in what Meera ma'am and I just read. We'll go by alphabetical order. Akshaya, would you start?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, in this book, starting I felt it was kind of a sad book. I had heard reviews about this. Some of my friends had read this book, and they said it's a really good book, and there's a lot of learning from this book about habits. But starting when he said about seizures and all, I felt I didn't like that book much. But then when where it was directed to a different thing, where he wanted to show about habits and all, so that thing I liked it. And which is the most heart touching for me was that aeroplane thing, just 3.5 degrees south. So it's a very very minor thing. So
Where do you
if
begin?
we, yeah, and we'll land up in a different state.
Yeah,
So I
Absolutely.
like that a lot, a lot.
great, Akshaya. Thank you so much. Chandrasekhar,
Yeah.
Very well said. Very nicely.
yeah. Chandrasekhar, why don't you start?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. But in this story, I understand mm, not fully, ma'am. I understand somehow this story, ma'am. I like the ma'am said in the last sentence. What we daily new things we learn. 1% like every day we have a routine, but in a day, what in new things we learn, like new words or a new things or a new anything we should they become we learn only new things. How they become we grow by learning new things, learning a new book, learning a new story. I like this story. And he said no, his family members starting the story. I remember that story. He is there in hospital. You remember uh, like unconscious mind, how he will there. I note this point, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I didn't understand the second bit, but the first observation you made was good, Chandrasekhar. And another thing, first thing you said is you didn't understand it fully. So that's exactly the point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get the overall gist, it's enough. Many times, and over a period of time, as you keep learning, you know what? Actually, when you're reading books, even if you understand it fully, you should read it again and you will see a different perspective. In my house, I have books which we reread. We keep reading it again and again and again, and every time there is something new that pops up, and you'll think of it in a different way. You'll relate to it in a different way. So it doesn't matter at all that you're not
As
able to, yeah.
as what happens is the more you read, you also connect whatever you read to our lives around us. And the more we get older, we have more experiences. So we look at the same thing in a different perspective.
Absolutely. So it's good that he's here in the class listening, trying to understand, and it doesn't matter at all that you have not got the whole scene of it. Doesn't matter. But it's a good beginning.
Dharani, why don't you go next? Dharani?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah. Starting with the first topic, like how he faced, how she faced the pain, like when he crashed by the baseball, how he get rid of that pain and again changing the like again getting back to the original state, like changing a small habits make that huge difference after few years. Like before when after reading this particular paragraph, like tiny habits can change a huge results. Before reading that, I think like uh changing the habits, it's like I expect the huge massive change immediately, ma'am. After reading this particular paragraph, like tiny changes will later it will like it will show the result later. For every day improving the tiny habits, it will result good in the end of the like after few years. And the last thing was uh, improving daily is the main point I noticed in this particular paragraph. consistency is the best key. That's all, ma'am.
Good observation, Dharani. So,
Next is Mansa.
yeah, actually, the meeting will end at 12,
11.
11 exactly. Huh? Mansa.
It's Mansa. Why don't you speak? Pujita and then Santosh, okay?
Yeah, hi,
Mansa.
ma'am. Yeah, I came in the middle of the meeting, so I listened. I listened both of you's whatever you read, but first part I didn't understand, ma'am, because I came in middle, so I didn't understand whatever Meera ma'am read first chapter. It made me realize that every day we are doing, if we follow some schedule, if we want to succeed in our life, if we follow some days, and we will see yeah, for everyone we will see that there will be no change, and again we are going to our routine life. So I realized that the way we made first step mistake, I realized it there. So until we reach that, we should not back to our routine life. I understood that, ma'am.
That's very good, Mansa. That's very nice. And please, I've shared the PDF in the group. Please open it and read it.
Yeah, ma'am. I observed that how you are reading. I observed that, ma'am. In first, whatever you read, I'm reading with you, ma'am. In second, whatever ma'am first chapter said, I deeply went that what is ma'am saying, and from whenever I join in the meeting, for first of Meera ma'am read, and after that you read, you read right, ma'am. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Good.
great, great.
That's another thing all of you can do is read along with us. And we may stop to converse with each other, but which is not going to happen all through this thing. We are trying to be a little more focused. We're going to do reading more. But at the same time, I want each and every one of you. See, one of the things I want you to do is when you're speaking around, when you're reading, to just listen to the sentence construction. Listen to the grammar. Okay, the more you read, the more. So I am a voracious reader. Voracious means I read like mad. Like mad. There are probably 1,000+ books in my house and more coming every few days. And I literally, this is my constant companion, my Kindle. And I read almost one book a day, minimum. And I enjoy myself. But anyway, it's enough about me. Pujita, why don't you go next? Because we just have 7 minutes. I want you and Santosh to say a few words.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Actually, the first part of the story I didn't understood much, ma'am. I first thing I observed was the way of speaking, the way of narrating your story, ma'am. And I liked about why small habit makes a big difference. In that, I like the second paragraph. Habits are the compound interest of self improvement. I like that line much, ma'am. Like if we constantly improving ourselves by 1%, that can be, if we succeeded, that means we are growing. If we didn't succeeded, that means we are losing something. So what I understood is that even just by 1% is we should always improve ourselves in order to achieve something in our life or to be succeed.
Very good,
That
Mansa. Very good. Santosh, would you go next, please?
Hello everyone.
Yeah.
The first thing I liked about this book is how the author introduced his book. Since he is successful, he may have introduced it as a successful person, like how he is grateful to his family and how he get to write this book. But instead of that, he started with his one of the worst misfortune, and I believe that everyone has something common with his story. And the second thing is, so instead of being depressed, he tried to make a small habits so that he could recover from his accident. And the third thing is, I don't know whether there is anything about habits and articles on the habits in 2012, but he tried to uh, learn more and experimented on it and posted articles where no one experimented at that time. I like all these three things about this introduction, and as well as his theory on instead of rapid increment, we can only it is 1% increment is a very good thing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
See, that's how exactly. See, now each and every one of you heard the book, you understood, didn't understand, but each of you took something away from it. See, that is the whole point. And I can tell you, when I started reading the bigger books, there were so many words I didn't understand. It's only reference to context. You know, you understand the gist of it, then you slowly understand the meaning of it, meaning of the specific words. Okay, so so you don't have to understand word by word. You don't have to understand situation by situation. So it is just one thing. I can put it in a small paragraph. I would say this man started the story of his biggest challenge and how by adopting small changes in his daily routine, he had achieved so many big things. So he achieved his potential. That's what I wanted all of you to think of, is that we should achieve our potential, right? And we have 3 more minutes. Meera ma'am, would you like to say something before we hang up?
Yeah, I think nicely summarized by each one of you. And don't worry on not understanding fully and all that. But one more thing, one last thing is always I think we should have a takeaway. So is there one habit all of us want to work on? Is there something, Kanti, that you've been thinking that you want to do and you've not been able to do? This meeting might close. If it closes, you can just put it in the WhatsApp group.
So
I have one big list of things I want to
Same
change.
here, too big a list. So I thought, let me start by becoming, clearing up clutter in my house, little
No.
by little by
So
little.
see, I used to be a reader, if I could call myself that, because lately I've stopped reading. And when I started this program, I had my own selfish interest. I said, okay, by this way, I will also start reading again. Yeah.
Good.
So for me, I want to read regularly. I want to read many more books. I've started doing a lot of audio books lately, but I want to get back to the physical books. So
I think that does change the way you read by holding a book and
that's
way
it. Yeah. So each one of you could just maybe put it in the WhatsApp group if you want time to think or about what is the one habit you really want to work on. And you know what? I attend one yoga class. That guy, he does it's called habit yoga only. So each month he asks us to focus on one habit. He says sleep early. This month, all of you try to sleep early, and every day in the class he'll ask, did you sleep early? Did you sleep early? I think we can all do that. At least take one habit for all of us commonly and say, okay, we will try to work on it.
Yep.
And as of now, it's about reading books. So, Kanti, don't read more than one book per day. Okay, that's enough. We will try to up our game and try to meet up to your standards, come up to your standards.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we are done for the day.
Yes.
So
Good
tomorrow.
night.
Good night, all of you. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And I
Thank
hope
you, ma'am.
we are going to do it for the next 14 days. Today is the first day.
Thank you so much.
14 days. How many days? Kartika gives us a timetable and we have to do it. That's it.
15 days. 15 days.
Okay. Come on, we'll do it. Yes, we can do it.
Yes.
Chala. Good night, all. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Good night, ma'am.
Good night.